Good morning. Good morning, everyone from Brussels, and welcome to this CEPS event. My name is Sophia Russak. I'm a researcher here at CEPS, and I will be moderating this session. We're meeting here today to speak about the conference on the future of Europe, which could not be any more timely because the conference is, after 1 year of delay, about to kick off on Sunday. What we know so far is who is presiding. We know the duration from now until next spring. We know its setup. It will be composed of a joint presidency, of an executive board, of citizens panels, a plenary, and a digital platform, which had been launched already. What remains unclear so far are, however, how these elements will be connected, how effective citizens' participation can be ensured, how the recommendations or whatever this conference will produce will be actually put into practice. And also, of course, probably the biggest bone of contention still, the scope. Will there be treaty change or not afterwards? The goal of this meeting is to get a better grip on these and other issues. And for this, we have an excellent panel here today with us. And it is a pleasure to welcome Dubravka Šuica, Commission Vice President for Democracy and Demography. And she is one of the 3 key members of the Executive Board. So she's directly involved in all the processes. Then we have Daniel Freund, who is a member of the European Parliament of the Greens. He's also a member of the Executive Board as an observer, and he will join us in about 30 minutes. Both, so the Vice President and Daniel, will give us insights of the Executive Board, one from the Commission and one from the Parliament's point of view. Welcome, Commission Vice President. Then we welcome Caroline Edstadler. She is Federal EU Minister of Austria. So in her capacity, she had been working on the council position on the conference. And she'll be giving us the national angle today. Thanks for being here with us, Minister. Besides those 3 representatives of the EU institutions, we have with us Ilke Teugur. She's an analyst at the Elcano Royal Institute in Madrid and a professor at the university there. And she has done extensive research on EU affairs and is following the conference closely. And she will help us today a little bit to zoom out the individual institutions' perspectives and will give us her analytical take on things. Thank you all for being here with us today. Now here's what's going to happen in the next 75 minutes. We're going to give the floor now to each of the speakers and for some initial statements. I've asked them to be brief so that we can take a lot of your questions. If you would like to ask a question, then you could get it ready already. You can type it into the Q&A box and I will curate that. One last remark from my side, if you're asking questions, please also indicate who you like to answer this question, and also please indicate your name and affiliation, so that we can make things a little bit less anonymous. Thanks. All right, let's just jump right in. Vice President, please, I would like you to ask us a little bit more about the governance structure of the conference. We know executive board meetings still have to take place and many things of the internal composition and workings are still unsure, but maybe, you can tell us already a little bit more about how these elements, and I mean especially the platform and the plenary and the citizens panels, how they are connected. You say that the platform is the hub of the conference, and I find that still a bit cryptic. Maybe you can explain a little bit what is meant with that. The floor is yours, Vice President.
Okay, good morning to everybody. Thank you, Sophia, dear fellow speakers, dear ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for your invitation, and I want to thank you for your question on the digital platform. So we are answering the call of citizens who demand a greater role in policy making in the European Union beyond elections. The Conference on the Future of Europe is an exercise in deliberative democracy at the European level on a huge scale. And as all of you know, this hasn't been attempted before. Dear Sophia, I must add an important element to the announcement of this event. You say it starts on the 9th of May. In fact, the conference already started on the 19th of April when we launched the multilingual digital platform. I insist on this because that was the moment when the European Union opened a brand new innovative space for citizens from all corners of the European Union. I usually say from the mountains to the islands to start deliberating on the future of European Union they want and the topics they consider important. For example, a citizen in Finland can deliberate with a citizen in Cyprus, as the platform supports transnational debates. This is innovative and new. The multilingual digital platform is available in 24 official European languages. We have arrangements with some member states to accommodate unofficial languages upon demand, for example, Spain. The conference overall objective is to empower citizens and civil society to deliberate and to have a greater say on the shaping of European Union policies. This platform enables people to do just that. The platform is the conference central hub or heart, centralizing and sharing contributions to the conference in a transparent manner, including input from the European citizens panels and conference plenaries. These are two other strands. We usually say we have 3 Ps: platform, panels, and plenaries. Most importantly, citizens can organize events and submit their ideas on the platform. It is a key part of the feedback mechanism. All platform activities will be regularly analyzed and reports will be prepared to feed into the European citizens panels and the conference plenaries. So whatever is on the platform will feed into European citizens panels and the conference plenaries. Personally, I am eager to see how citizens can inspire us in our work. I want to be very clear on this point. When the conference draws its conclusions in the spring next year, 2022, the work does not stop, at least not for us. That will be the moment for the 3 institutions to reflect on what the citizens have deliberated and decide how we can best follow up on it. So we need another half of our mandate to act upon it. President von der Leyen has committed to do this, and I will also see it through. So digital platform is operational and available since 2 weeks now, and a lot of citizens and stakeholders have already come on board. In the first 2 days, over 90,000 visits were recorded with a total of 300,000 page views. More than 5,000 participants have already shared over 1,000 ideas, and they organized over 160 events all over Europe. So we have moderators. So our moderators are busy too, tackling disinformation or hate speech. So far, about 35 contributions have been removed, while 52 others are under review or waiting for user response. So we are moderating this digital platform. Regarding the topics on the platform, I will not comment on the discussions or ideas as that could potentially influence the deliberations on the platform. This is important. I have been saying this since the beginning, that we cannot preempt or we cannot influence the outcome of these deliberations. So this is also the advice of experts. I genuinely want to hear what citizens have to say. So this platform lists 9 topics to get the deliberation started, but this list is not exhaustive. The 10th topic, 10th box, is other ideas. Citizens can raise any topics that they wish. We must reach those who do not usually engage with us, including those who are critical or those who are skeptical of the European Union project. This is all part of a healthy deliberative process, I would say. I want to contextualize the conference. Our democracy faces multiple challenges. In addition, democracy itself is not static, so it evolves constantly. We must evolve too to ensure our democracy is fit for the future. So the Conference of the Future of Europe is part of our response to this challenge. This is why citizens must have a prominent place in this conference, and they are not objects of democracy or national parliaments or the European Union. They are participants. The conference does not replace representative democracy. I want to highlight this. Conference reinforces it. we usually say politics is not anymore business as usual. So we must bring citizens into the heart of policy making in the European Union. Otherwise, we leave a space for other less constructive narratives to develop. So this conference is offering a unique, it offers us a unique opportunity, and we as policymakers and elected representatives should not lack confidence in the ability of citizens to contribute concretely and to provide us with a substantive response. This is the reason why we want to include citizens in digital platform, in citizens panels, and later on in conference plenaries. For the beginning, maybe this answers your first question.
Thanks a lot, Vice President. Thanks for giving us an overview of, explaining the platform better, to make it better tangible for us, and also give us your first impressions on the results. Let me ask you one follow-up on that. Citizens' participation is crucial. You stressed that, and I think this is everybody is aware of this. Now, I find it's not the first time that the Commission is trying to get to know what citizens want. Besides extensive Eurobarometer data we have already for a long time, there has been another exercise in the previous Commission, the European Citizens Consultation in 2018. And let us just, to fresh up our memory, this was a survey which was put up online by the Commission, which was developed by a citizens panel of, randomly selected representative citizens. And this was then complemented by dialogues and national consultations, and this was all, put in a synthesis report. So I must acknowledge, I find the methodology was sound, and the endeavor was well intended. But the problem was, let me put it bluntly, no one cared. Neither citizens nor member states. If we look at who participated in the survey, then it was 80,000 people, 80,000 Europeans were sharing their views on the future of Europe. Compared to the 4.5 million people that care about the daylight saving time, this is not much. And also on member states level, this synthesis report was put to the European Council. It was hardly discussed, and then it seemed very quickly forgotten. So I would like to ask you, Vice President, what is the difference? What makes the difference this time?
There is a huge difference this time. First of all, it's transnational, okay. Then communication. Communication is very important. You know that 3 institutions signed this joint declaration. So we have DG Com in each of these 3 institutions, Council, Parliament, and Commission. So we are doing our best in order to communicate and to penetrate all over Europe. I said symbolically from mountains to islands. What we want to do, what we want to say. So I'm responsible on behalf of Commission, but this is not responsibility of European Commission. It's not the responsibility of European Council, neither of European Parliament. Responsibility lies in all of us, so each and every individual. So the ownership of this conference is all of us on this conference. This conference is intended, first of all, for citizens. And this is the reason why we always highlight citizens, and we want to stress them. Of course, we will moderate this. We will, of course, otherwise there will be a chaos. And we have to direct this, but we don't want to preempt the outcome. We want to listen to citizens, first of all, to see what they want, in fact, what they want for Europe. And we have to trust in them. Otherwise, how can we trust them when they vote for us? So we have to trust them also during this deliberative process. And feedback mechanism is benchmark of this conference. This is something which differ this conference of the future of Europe from previous citizen dialogues, previous Have Your Say, previous 2018 deliberations, which you mentioned. So feedback mechanism is the most important tool this time. And we will let citizens know what happened or what happens with their idea. And of course, the citizens are also responsible because those who organize events, they will have to subscribe to a digital platform. Once they subscribe there, they have to adhere to the charter, okay, on the rules, terms and conditions, fine. And then when this event is over, they have to report back to the platform, which means the conclusions from their event should be put on the platform. And then we will analyze this I mean a team, not me, will be analyzed, and then it will be sent to citizens panels, which where citizens are randomly selected, and then to conference plenaries. And in the end, the executive board, which I am member of, the executive board will draw the conclusions and transfer them to the presidents of the council, of the parliament, and of the commission. This is the reason why we need the second part of our mandate in order to act. Last time there was 5 scenarios of Mr. Juncker white paper, as you remember, but there was nothing at the end of the term. Everything was over. Nobody reacted upon this. So this time we have to draw conclusions and see what to do with the conclusions. So you said at the beginning about treaty change. So we don't preempt anything. Whatever citizens will ask, and this will be majority of them, then we will also act accordingly. But at the moment, I don't want to mention this because this is not our goal. Our goal is to listen to them, and I'm sure the citizens will be more interested in daily issues than in changes of institutional architecture. But of course, this is only my personal opinion. Let's listen to them. I don't want to influence anyone. And this is the reason why I don't want to tell at this moment what is going on the platform. But if you are interested, you can go and see what citizens are talking about. So sorry, maybe I am not sure if I was clear enough.
Perfectly clear.
Trying to do my best.
No, thanks a lot, Vice President. Minister Edstadler, so buzzword institutional ownership. Well, it's not a secret that most member states were not a big fan of this conference, and that the scope has been tried to limit, as most member states are opposing, or at least are very careful towards treaty change. I mean, I know your government is an exception there. And also Chancellor Merkel actually already last week picked up this topic and said it might become necessary to revise the treaties as a consequence of this pandemic. So tell us, what is your take on, let's say, the current political atmosphere among the member states regarding A, treaty revision, and B, commitment for this conference?
First of all, let me start by thanking you for this invitation, and let me greet you from Skopje. I'm not sitting in my office. I'm a guest in the Austrian ambassador in North Macedonia, because I started yesterday my Western Balkan tour. And that is something I would like to refer a bit later also. Dear Vice President, once more also in this panel, congratulations that we are now ready to start. You said, okay, we started it already by launching your digital platform, and obviously there is a lot of interest. And therefore I would like to catch up what the Vice President said. This is a unique chance for Europe to bring Europe closer to the citizens. And you mentioned also the Council and some hesitance regarding treaty changes. Well, that's the next step. But in my opinion, in the Austrians' opinion, and in many other opinions of the member states, we have to stay open. We have to start a discussion where we are open for anything the people bring to us. Politics is a field where you can act only in a swift way if you know what people want to. And I was advocating for the quick start of the conference on the future of Europe already last January and February. We had discussions in the Council. Dubravka, you know that I was always a voice for the quick start, for an open mandate, and it was not that easy, even before this pandemic took all our attention. And then we had really the bad situation that it could not be started last year under the Croatian presidency. And there was somehow even more hesitance if it is necessary to start now a conference on the future of Europe. I had so many discussions also among the ministers of Europe who told me, no, we do not have the time. We have to tackle COVID-19 now. And I was really very clear in October, and I will never forget that council meeting in Luxembourg, when most of the other ministers didn't say a word. They did not take the floor. Also, the German presidency was very hesitant because they said, okay, there's nothing new, and there was no development regarding the start of the conference on the future of Europe. And we can pass this item on the agenda quite quick. And I said, no, we are the ministers for Europe, and we have to think in the future, and we have to include the people's minds, the people's wishes. And that's what I really like to mention, that this is a unique opportunity, and it has to be confirmed that we use it. And it is good to hear also what Vice President said, Dubravka, you mentioned it, that there is a commitment among the three institutions that we won't only hear the voice of the people, but we also will act what they tell us, how they see the European Union, how they see the future of the European Union. And then I would like to say one word also on the Austrian process. I was really a bit desperate that we could not start this conference already last year, because I had the impression it is really needed to have a good and a better motion towards the European Union, because we know also from the last surveys that over 90% of people who were asked mentioned that they want to be heard more intensively, that they want to be encompassed in the process when it comes to shaping our future. And so I started the process on the Conference of the Future of Europe in Austria already on the 9th of June, and I had the so-called Österreich-Dialoge, and I was touring through Austria, of course, with all the restrictive rules we had also and still have regarding COVID-19, but it turned out that the people know a lot, that they want to be included, that they have a really clear vision about the future of Europe. And I have something very special in Austria. We do have something special. Maybe this is something we could have all over Europe. It's the so-called EU-Gemeinderäte. That means the politicians on the local level who are especially informed regarding the topics of the European Union, to bring the European Union to the citizens, to inform them, to let them know what is possible within the European Union with the money, with the big amount of money we concluded last year, and which will be given to the member states in the next few weeks and months and years to come, to bring up our economy again and to create something like a European citizenship. And I will always stay an Austrian, but I also feel as European, and that is what we need for the future. And that is why we have to use this unique chance to get in touch and in discussion with the citizens, and then do our homework and maybe also change the treaties. And even if there is some hesitance, we do have an open mandate now, and that is now our chance.
Many thanks, Minister. So when you met the ministers during the German presidency last year, you said they were hesitant. What has changed since then?
Well, I remember in October, there was a lot of hesitance because of the really bad situation regarding COVID-19. And I have, of course, also had the situation that we had discussions in the public in Austria, nothing about COVID, then there was nothing, and then maybe some other topics. So it was up to us to hold this topic on the agenda, because there was a lot to do regarding the preparations. Then something changed already in December, because I think people and even also the politicians remembered themselves that it was Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, who proclaimed this conference on the future of Europe. And there was already a lot of waitings, and people were really keen to know what we are planning. So you can't go back and say, okay, sorry, we failed, we don't want to start this conference. We did a lot already, and we had to do the rest. And then in December, the German presidency launched the informal start of the conference on the future of Europe, and it was during a council meeting. And the important thing was that young European ambassadors were included, young people telling the ministers of Europe their visions and their ideas about the European Union. That was the one thing. The second thing was that also the countries of the Western Balkans were invited. And this is something I would like to mention also, not because I'm here at the moment, but because Austria historically always advocated also for the start of the accession process. We are currently advocating for a quick first intergovernmental conference regarding North Macedonia and Albania. And of course, we have to encompass these countries also in the dialogue regarding the conference on the future of Europe. So I think with a bit of relaxing the situation regarding COVID-19, it came back to all the politicians' minds that we have to fulfill what we promised the citizens.
One last question from my side. Now that the time frame is much shorter than initially envisaged, what do you think? Where will the conference have to compromise on?
No, we shouldn't compromise. I think things have changed a bit. When there is something we can take out of this pandemic in a positive sense, then the digitalization, the use of formats like this. So, of course, I would love to see young people travel all over Europe and to open their minds, because they are in other countries. And I'm still convinced that it is the best way of learning about Europe, not only regarding languages, but also the citizens and the circumstances of the living. I always say, don't judge someone in whose shoes you didn't walk, and that's the best way to do it. But we learned to handle several things also in a digital way. And so I think it's possible to have a good dialogue also within 1 year. And there is nothing we should compromise on. I think in next spring, under the French presidency, there will be only a half-time dialogue. There will be some, you will find some conclusions, but the process won't stop there. So it's the first step, and then let's do the rest. And that will be hard work and still a lot of work to do. But do not talk about compromising. I don't like this word in regard of the Conference on the Future of Europe and the inclusion of the citizens of Europe.
Thanks a lot. Ilke, let me lead over to you. You as an analyst, what is your perspective? We have witnessed in the past year some institutional, we would say tough battles when it comes to the leadership question. Now, the executive board still has to solve quite some contentious issues. So there will be also some political will needed within the structures. Can you elaborate a little bit for us on, where do these three institutions stand? What do they expect for us, to give a bit of an overview? And also, what do you think, how can institutional tough battles be avoided?
Thank you very much, Sophia, and thank you for the invitation as well. It's an honor to be here and share this virtual stage with the Commission Vice President and the Minister. I would like to comment on what the institutions want, and even if I'm not the moderator, maybe I can also send back some questions, because we have three representatives of these institutions here. I think it is great news that the institutions kind of overcame their differences and settled down in this joint leadership, and we already know the structure very well. But I still see some kind of differences between the institutions when we are thinking about what do they want out of this conference. Because, for example, let's start with the European Commission. European Commission, I think, as the Vice President already very, very well demonstrated, is all about the conference platform. They would like to guarantee the highest number of citizens' participation in the program. I think they still need to do a good job in promoting the platform to not so usual suspects in all the member states, because I think citizens' participation is not directly guaranteed, even if I'm sure there will be efforts for this. And I think there should be also a special emphasis on how to balance the citizens' participations between member states, because I'm sure that some countries have a wider culture of civil society, for example, Germany, with lots of think tanks and budget for doing so. It's not necessarily going to be the same in all member states. So I think even if the platform is the key, and it is already stated as the key, there's still work to do. And when we look at Commission's work, I think one other dimension that they should focus on is to analyze maybe a bit further the existing Eurobarometers, and even going for special Eurobarometers on the future of Europe, because they have already published one in March 2021. And if you let me cite one data from that, a very large majority of Europeans, and 92% to be exact, agree that EU citizens' voices should be taken more into account for decisions related to the future of Europe. And while 3/4 of Europeans consider that the conference would represent significant progress for democracy within the EU. Beyond these data we all like and we would like to cite, I think there's a lot of data. There are a lot of data available in these Eurobarometers, and I think this would be a good exercise for the European Commission to analyze this, maybe also creating some expert panels and come up with concrete proposals on what do citizens want. Since the good old days of permissive consensus is over, I think this is a very, very much needed exercise. And one more point on the Commission, I already participated in one panel, well, in one online platform panel, and it was great. It was organized by student colleagues in Sweden. And what they have said at the end of the panel, that they don't just want feedback, which is very important, like the Vice President has said, but they want action. So I think the clear link between the ideas presented by the citizens and what will be the follow-up will be the key to understanding of success in this regard. If I can come to Council and the European Council, already the Minister explained the position, but let me give a couple of points about how I see it, the institution's effort there. I think in the European Council, beyond the French President Emmanuel Macron, who has been also the mind behind these citizens' consultations, or a big fan of citizens' consultations initiative, the rest are not necessarily that involved, at least they don't look that involved, even if they are also participating in conference institutions. And as we can see, as observers, Council's observers, we have Czech, Swedish, Spanish, and Belgian representatives. And I think their role is quite important because they might mobilize the conference beyond its already organized content. So I see their role also important. And one more additional points there on the member states' positions. I think one of the key things, and which should be also reflected on the conference's work, is that every country puts on the table concrete issues or affairs that are important in their own country. I know the Spanish example, for example, they already put the development of European citizenship, attention to regions with geographical disadvantages, and greater participation of cities. Even they have put more dedication, European dedication to sports as 4 important points for Spain in the conference. So I think this will also give us, map us, what is important for member states in the conference. So what I want to say with this, beyond the institutional participation of Council and the European Council, I think it's also a good exercise to see what will be on the table in each member state and what are the most important points when they are talking about the conference. And while intergovernmental shift is not necessarily a secret in the European Union, in the decision-making mechanism, I think for me, the conference will be an important exercise to bring perspective on that. What do we mean when we are talking about the member states? Last but not least, since Danielle Freund is also here, I would like to comment also on the European Parliament, because for me, according to my understanding, there are 3 very important points for the European Parliament beyond the turf wars and clearly the character of Guy Verhofstadt, who has been a leading figure in the conference, is that they want to take something out of this for 2024 elections. And I think this is very important. They want to open the debate. They want to make their debates visible, be it the Spitzenkandidaten, Sophia knows the issue way better than I do, or the transnational lists. They want to open these debates, mainly that nobody beyond the institutional circles interested, to the public. So I think the European Parliament is a key institution here, and all these debates on the conference plenary and beyond that is going to be very crucial for them. The second thing I see related to the European Parliament is that it is an opportunity for them to include regional and national parliaments beyond the usual to the debate. So it's not going to be just the European Parliament per se, but it's going to be the mobilizer of all parliaments around Europe. So I think this is an important task for the European Parliament, as I said, beyond the turf wars that we are talking about. And clearly, last but not least, as the European Commission has pledged, European Parliament has also its own young people networks. They have mobilized quite a lot of people for the elections in 2019. And I think they will also mobilize them once again as key actors that are participating in European democracies for 2024 and beyond. So what is my conclusion to three institutions? I think we understood the turf wars, and we also see the rivalry between institutions day to day. I'm not going to call it Sofagate here, even if I'm encouraged to do so. But I think the most important thing related to conference is that every institution gets their part done regarding to citizens, parliaments, civil society, organizations that might contribute to not only European future, but also European democracies. Because at the end of the day, the conference is and will be what we make out of it. The conference is more hours than anyone else's. So I think I will stop there, Sophia.
Well said. Thanks a lot, Ilke. Now, you're also working on foreign policy, and that is a particularly tricky policy field. And it seems for member states very difficult to find common ground here. Can you answer me in two minutes? What is your take? Is there any chance for more qualified majority voting in the field of external action?
Actually, thank you very much for asking that. I was happy to see that in the conference, the foreign and security policy dimension has been defined more like external action and EU in the world, rather than very limited debates on strategic autonomy or in general foreign and security policy. So for starters, I think this is a heavy development. And external action includes trade policy, enlargement and neighborhood. As Minister said, she's already doing a Western Balkan tour, development, cooperation, etc., etc. So I'm very happy to see that this is defined like this in the conference, and I'm very happy to see that. Qualified majority voting, there are already some mechanisms given by the Lisbon Treaty, like passerella clauses, constructive abstention. These are already given in the content of the treaty. So it is not necessarily an issue of treaty change, and this makes it more probable for me that might happen. The issue is this was intended previously and didn't even happen in the global human sanctions regime. So I'm not necessarily so hopeful, but I think the new discussions also with Sofagate, again, for me it's quite telling, will open the floor to further debates, and I think we might see as a concrete step this qualified majority voting, or I will encourage them to move forward with this, because this will be a very concrete step further and desired one, as already stated by Ursula von der Leyen in her first speech, first States of the Union speech as well. I don't know if I answered well, but I hope to see that going forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Ilke. Let me lead over to you, Daniel. First of all, welcome. We're happy that you can join us. And I would like to pose a question to you as a member of the European Parliament and as an observer of the executive board. I'd like to ask you about, the institutional strand on the conference of the future of Europe. So the Commission announced or offered to broker a compromise between the European Council and the Parliament when it comes to the lead candidate procedure. Transnational lists are also still on the table. It seems a little bit that, the institutions, or let's say, for me, it seems the Commission has lost a little bit interest here. Council is quite wary of institutional topics. Anyhow, the time frame of the whole conference is shorter. So for me, it seems that there's not very good ground, for in-depth discussion and to find a new system. So my question to you, Daniel, is what needs to be done so that we have a new system in place prior to the European Parliament election 2024?
Well, thanks for the invitation, and great that we can have this discussion. I think we absolutely need to have a debate about how the next European elections are going to go, because it's very clear that we cannot just repeat what we did in 2019, right? where all the major political parties parties ran with a candidate and said, this is our candidate for the Commission presidency. And then after the election, none of them became the president, and someone else was suggested in council. And I think we have to be honest enough with the voters that either we say, that didn't work, that's now dead, and the European Parliament elections are really just that. You get to elect some members of parliament, but what happens to top jobs in the Commission and in the External Action Service and so on, that is not decided in the European elections. I have to say, that remark earlier that citizens don't want to discuss transnational lists. I think all this depends on how you frame the question. Obviously, if you go out to the average citizen in the street and ask them, what model would you prefer? Should we have 25 or 46 spots that we elect on transnational lists? And should it be, what should be the counting system in which the seats are allocated? I mean, all of this is of very little interest to citizens. But if you ask them how the top jobs in Brussels are distributed, and do you think that your vote in the European elections should determine how top jobs are distributed, then I think you can have a discussion with pretty much any European citizen about that question. And I think that logic probably holds true for most of the institutional discussions. I don't think that treaty change is an end in itself. I don't think that, if you go
the connection is quite bad, Daniel. Is there any chance?
What should we change?
Daniel, I'm sorry for interrupting. Is there any chance that you can get a more stable connection? You're breaking.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can try. Maybe we can try to interrupt the video.
Turn off the video for now. Maybe
let's try that. Yeah. Thanks.
So questions, or the question result of a concrete question on content. If you ask your voice in the world and defend our ideals, our values, also our economic interests, then citizens overwhelmingly say yes to those kind of questions. And I think particularly this format that we in the European Parliament have pushed from the beginning of these randomly selected citizens' assemblies that really have some time to also deliberate. I think that's the game changer, because it's one thing in a Eurobarometer survey or even in the town hall meeting to allow citizens to ask a quick question or come forward with a proposal that then gets answered by a politician. But it's a whole different game if you sit down repeatedly over the length of a weekend and you really try to develop an answer. Because we all know that single questions in a survey, do you want lower taxes, do you want higher taxes? I mean, that's, you can answer that, but it doesn't really give you the full picture. Whereas what we have seen precisely in Ireland, in France with the climate convention, also at the regional or local level in many of our member states, when citizens sit down and deliberate on complex issues, how to do climate change mitigation in a social way, or how should the pension system for members of parliament work? If you take the time to really discuss that with representative citizens, then you get astonishingly good answers, and I really hope that can change the way that we discuss reform. And of course, the other aspect on this is when we have done treaty reforms in the past, it was a very institutional, and the European Parliament and the governments that decided that among themselves, and maybe at the end, in some member states, you got a referendum on the question. But precisely for that reason, this time around, we wanted to put the citizens center stage and from the outset, and make them part of this discussion. And I think the question of how do you engage citizens into that discussion? I mean, it was said that the feedback mechanism is so important. I think the single most important question here is, are we really willing to take into account what citizens say and to act on it? Because as soon as citizens get the impression that this is just some, online complaints box where you put something in, but nothing will ever come of it. I mean, the feedback mechanism that they get an email at the end, thanks for your great proposal, we didn't take it into account. I'm not sure that's what matters to them. What matters to them is that their voice are really taken serious and that there is some actual reform coming out at the end. Not on every proposal, not that everything happens within a matter of months, we overhaul the whole European Union, but that there is a clear signal that this is serious, that we are listening and that we are changing something in consequence.
Thanks a lot, Dania. One follow-up on the platform. I've came across the label, somebody written that or described the platform as the Facebook for European policy. What can we do? What can the institutions do to reach out to those citizens who are not already involved with the EU or particularly interested? What do you think, Dania?
Well, two things really. I think one element of the conference is the randomly selected citizens panels. And that is really one of the best forms to reach out to those that don't usually engage with those kind of procedures. Because even if you organize lots of local events, which are going to be key to the success of this conference as well, but we also know that it's certain kind of people that show up to events. When you say we're going to organize a discussion on European foreign policy in whatever Porto or in Tampere in Finland or wherever in the Union, it's certain people that show up to those kind of debates. And if you randomly select them and make sure that it's representative and that you have people that usually never engage with these kind of procedures, that's when you're changing the debate. That's when you're hearing the kind of voices that you do not get by putting online this platform. I think both are important. Obviously, the platform is great to participate, to submit proposals. It's much easier than a European Citizens Initiative or even a petition to the European Parliament. And there is that element of that you can discuss and even vote in a way on the proposals of others. So I think the online platform has an important role to play, but it needs to be in conjunction with the citizens panels, where we really want to tickle out those voices that are usually much more difficult to get into.
Thanks, Daniel. That leads me over to questions from the audience. One of our participants asked about the citizens panel composition, rightly done. So maybe Vice President, you can say a word on that. How could I be a member of that panel? Is it possible to apply? So a little bit about the methodology behind.
First of all, citizens will be selected randomly, as already said, by a professional company. So the selection will be based on a balanced scientific approach in order to avoid unnecessary controversy. So as you know from joint declaration, important criteria as geographical balance, including nationality, but also urban and rural representation, socio-demographics, gender, age, everything will be taken into account. So there will be 4 panels of 200 citizens. They will be set up with digressive proportionality so that all member states are represented by at least 2 citizens per panel. The panels will meet for 3 sessions of 2 days each and should be organized before conference plenaries so that they can feed into conference plenaries. The selection of participants should start as soon as possible, and as I said, by a professional company. So everyone can be in citizens panel, if I may say so, but let's see how this will develop in the end.
You are muted, Sophia.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. So we have a question regarding the output and implementation of Gies de Vries from the LSE. A, will the final output of the conference be decided by the executive board or the plenary? Will the executive board and the plenary decide? B, will the executive board and the plenary decide on the basis of quality vote or unanimity? So that goes down to the nitty-gritty of the decision making. Who of you, maybe the latest thinking on the, yeah?
I can answer that.
Please.
Well, it's not decided yet. Basically, we are still in discussions on that. The joint declaration says that the conclusions should be drawn and published by the executive board, but it is very clear for all of us in the European Parliament, and there we are, strangely unanimously aligned from the ID to the GUE. Everyone agrees that obviously the plenary should have a voice on this, that it is the democratic heart of this conference. This is where you have all the actors that would actually be responsible for implementing whatever the outcome is, be it legislation, be it a change of the budget, be it treaty change. It has to be implemented, according to the current rules, so either by the co-legislators or by a ratification in the member states, and so those actors are represented in the conference plenary. So they need to take a stance on the final results. Obviously, this should not be done by unanimity, because otherwise, I think you basically guarantee that there will be no outcome of the conference. What we in the Parliament have suggested so far is that each of the pillars, in a way, in the conference plenary should have to give its consent, and how they organize the majority among themselves is in a way up to each pillar. So meaning that the members of the European Parliament sitting in the plenary will certainly just vote by majority. The representatives of member states government, well, maybe they take the usual majority for qualified majority voting in the council, or I don't know, but that's then up to each of the institutions to figure that out. But I think it is absolutely vital that the conference plenary takes, in a way, a vote on the final outcome, because that's where the accountability will work in the end, right? Have the conclusions of the conference been signed off by 9 people representing the 3 presidencies in the council, 3 members of parliament, and the 3 commissioners, or is it actual every government, all the members of parliament that are in there that have taken some sort of stance on the question at hand?
Sophia, if I may add, as you know, we are still debating, as Daniel said, on the format of plenary sessions. The executive board is working on this topic, and for us, it's obvious that citizens should be also involved in plenaries, since the conference on the future of Europe should be driven first and foremost by citizens, as we all agree. So we are trying to find a good and workable balance for the plenary sessions, and to have all stakeholders involved. And the plenary will have to work on recommendations that come from citizens' panels and from the digital platform. So allow me to refer to the joint declaration, which is clear on this point, saying that executive board will draw and publish the conclusions of the conference plenary. So the joint declaration is clear about the process, and we will follow this accurately. If I may quote, the conference is invited to reach conclusions by spring 2022, so as to provide guidance to the future of Europe. The outcome of the conference, to answer to Ilke, the outcome of the conference will be presented in a report to joint presidency. So the 3 institutions will examine swiftly how to follow up. It's not only feedback, but follow up. How to follow up effectively to this report, each within their own sphere of competencies and in accordance with the treaties. So if we don't want to change the text of joint declaration, then everything is clear. But since we are still working on it, on the rules of procedure, I hope we will find the best interpretation of joint declaration, and we will try to do our best in order to give enough voice and enough power to conference plenary too, of course.
Would anyone else like to step in?
Quickly step in?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please, because I would like to react to what was already said by some of the panelists and especially by Daniel Freund now also. I would like to reiterate what I said at the beginning. It is a unique chance for Europe to bring Europe closer to the citizens, but it must not stay a single exercise to have a dialogue with the citizens. So in my opinion, we can only await intermediate results in spring 2022, and then it will be up to us, and that was also mentioned, what we will do with that, how we shape the future of the European Union. And what I can tell you from my experience in Austria, from the dialogues I had since June last year, that there are repeatedly the same topics which people are concerned about. For example, migration, that is a big topic in Austria, or of course now health, the stability of social systems, how shape our future in a good way and keep up our values. So it is not that there are 1,000 topics, but it is like the Commission did also regarding the digital platform, that there are, I think it's quite good, 9 topics plus 1 where you can have other ideas, and I'm awaiting that there is a common strand in which direction it should go in many topics. So of course it is hard work to give citizens, not only during the conference but also after we have intermediate results, really the feeling that we build up a future of the European Union which they want to see. But on the other hand, I'm convinced that there are many same ideas, and that from Portugal, I don't know, to Budapest, from Athens to, let's say, I don't know, Den Haag, there are The Hague, there are really the same ideas in many strands. So let's start it, and let's not be afraid. And of course, from the perspective of a national politician also, I can say it is challenging and it is hard work to stay in touch with the people. But that's exactly what we have to do. What is our task now, and how we can, after this pandemic especially, go in a good and in the same direction.
Thanks. Ilke, do you have something left to say, or should we move on?
I could add one point, I think, from where the minister left. I think that she's right. I think this is a good opportunity to define what is the minimum common denominator among European citizens and member states and act on them. Because I think I also agree the platform well defined the core issues in the European Union. I'm sure there are more, and some are more important than the others, but I think it is a well-defined platform and it could guide the discussions. And just adding one more point, I think this is also a very useful exercise for all the institutions, civil society, and everyone else that are interested in the European Union to draw conclusions on how to fight Euroscepticism. Because at the end of the day, if you understand what the citizens want, and if you act on them, not necessarily in every aspect, but at least in the common ones, you can also kind of stop or limit, or at least try to limit, Euroscepticism right before the 2024 European Parliament elections. So I think we should keep in our mind somewhere that this should first define the minimum common denominator, and secondly, have this ultimate aim to fight Euroscepticism at the end of the day. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I have a question of Madeleine Siebert from Biogen, and she says, and this is a biotech company, and she monitors carefully ongoing conversations in and around the EU. And her question is, how can companies best participate in the conference? And Daniel, maybe I can play this to you, because I would like to connect this also to the aspect of civil society. You have a background, I mean, you come from a civil society organization, and this also had been a point of criticism that they are not involved enough, or formally enough. So maybe you can say a few words about the involvement of companies and civil society. Tanya, can you hear me? All right, maybe he'll be back in a bit. Then let's move on to national parliaments. So I have a couple of questions on this. For instance, from Martin Lemska, he asks, the joint declaration also mentions how representatives of national parliaments are included in the conference. Representatives of national parliaments are also observers in the executive board. How does the minister commissioner see the role of national parliaments in the conference? Vice President, may I ask you?
Yes, national parliaments are a very important part, but not only national parliaments, but also regional and local authorities. But national parliaments will be in the conference plenary on the same footing, regardless of executive board now. So national parliaments will be there. So the same footing means the same power, the same number or whatever. So they will be there, and we think that they are very important to be included. So this is what we are debating at this moment on the size, on the number, but I hope everything will be settled by 9th of May, by the end of this week. So they will be there definitely, but I think that regional parliaments are also important, and local authorities. So this is the reason why we include Committee of the Regions, and there will be a fair number of representatives from Committee of the Regions, but also from European Economic and Social Committee. So then we will have a number of social partners and NGOs. So nobody should complain, according to my opinion, because as I said at the beginning, this conference is the ownership of all of us. When I mentioned digital platform was done by a commission, but it's ownership of all of us. It's not Commission's digital platform. It's the platform of European Parliament, platform European Council, and of the Commission. So we now we have to speak with one voice. So there are no institutions here. All of us have to be included, because we want to show that we are united in this exercise, and that we are willing to have citizens on board, to listen to them. I said that politics is not anymore business as usual. There is a gap which we have to admit between us and citizens, us policymakers. So we want citizens to have a sense of drafting European policies. And we want each and every citizen who is interested, of course, to see that his or her idea finally be found in draft policy recommendations. So this is what we want our citizens to feel, that they can influence European policy. And this is the goal of this conference. Of course, institutional matters are important. 2024 elections are important. The citizens want to know, how do we approach these elections? Are there transnational lists there implemented? Is Spitzenkandidat also there? But I think that daily issues will be of interest for our citizens, and this is the reason why we want to have them on board, and we want to listen to them. I said, if we accept their votes, we can accept also their voices. I think this is for us politicians very important. Although maybe this seems not usual to talk like this on behalf of European Commission, being seen as a bureaucratic institution, but I think all of us rely on citizens. Whatever we are doing for them. And this time we are brave enough to do this. I think nobody in the world, no democracy in the world did such an exercise. So this is an endeavor, and we have to work together in this, and not to, I mean, I don't think that there is space for trifles among institutions. So hoping for the best rules of procedure, and looking forward to everyone on board. So NGOs are invited. We think that they are very important, because without civil society and NGOs, there are no citizens. So we are sure that they have to be involved. Someone I saw on your chat, someone asked someone asked for financing and invest, and how will NGOs will be financed. Of course, there is a budget in each institution on behalf of Parliament, Council, and the European Commission, but also there are different national events which will be financed by national authorities. by local authorities, by regional authorities, and there are also Commission representation offices and European Parliament representation offices in each and every state. So that means that they have to have a good link with them, and there will be also enough funding there. So whoever is interested, finances should not limit them. I think this is very important, because I said all of us are responsible, but 3 institutions signed the declaration because you have to start from somewhere. But we have to speak with one voice, and we have to see what is the direction of our Europe. And of course, skepticism is present, we are sure, and populism, and we have to find out how to tackle this. But let's listen to citizens. What do they think? What is their idea? And then we will act accordingly. So feedback is important, but also follow up. This is my answer again. So follow up. This is the reason why we need 2.5 years of the mandate to act accordingly. And this is what Ursula von der Leyen promised in her first inaugural speech in July in 2019. So not only Ursula von der Leyen, but also Council and also European Parliament. So I think that daily issues of our citizens will dominate, but I don't want to underestimate institutional matters, which will be of interest for our Parliament, for European Parliament. Sorry for this, but I just wanted to tell you what is the idea, and nothing is hidden. Yeah. Everything is transparent. And if we work together, we will manage to do this. Otherwise,
thanks for your elaborations, Vice President. Thanks a lot. Minister and Ilke, any more words on national parliaments? Yes.
Yes, if you allow me a short comment on that. This question reflects that the Conference on the Future of Europe is not an easy exercise. Because I remember quite well discussions when I was at the European Parliament as a member, that we had discussions that the parliamentarians, who are the elected representatives of the citizens, do not want to be replaced by them. And that was obviously, that was a discussion. And therefore, I think it is very important that I think we found now a quite balanced way to include the citizens, but not exclude the elected representatives who are the national parliaments and the members of the European Parliament. So it is really important that they have to be included in this dialogue, because in the end, after this consultation, they are the ones who have to do the laws and who have to follow the processes. So that's not an easy task. And I say that as a minister also responsible for constitutional affairs in Austria.
Thanks.
And one quick remark. I think this is already in the agenda of the European Parliament to create all these links with national and regional parliaments. And I think it's a very good opportunity to connect or reconnect in some cases with European affairs committees inside the national parliaments, or however they are called in each member state, since they already vote all the political parties represented in these parliaments. I think this is a good platform to understand what in general political parties think and what kind of issues and policy areas and domains these committees would like to underline. I think I would even, as an analyst, like to see, as we see the member states' important topics for the conference, national parliaments, these European committees, important points for the conference, because at the end of the day, they are the governments who are drafting the country positions. But if we get some kind of input from these kind of committees, like the European Affairs committees inside the national parliaments, we will get feedback, we will get input from all the political parties that are represented. There was a question on that, if the conference will favor some kind of ideas, opinions over the others and more pro-European opinions. This way, we can also guarantee that input will be given to the conference by all the political forces that are represented in national parliaments.
All right, thanks a lot. We have almost eaten up our time. We have 5 minutes left on the clock, and I would like to go around all speakers once more, and I would like to ask you, what should the audience today take home from this meeting? What is the message that you would like to convey? Minister Edstadler, may I ask you to start?
Yes, I have one message for everyone participating in this dialogue today. Participate in the Conference on the Future of Europe. Bring your ideas. Do events in your countries and connect with other people in other member states, because it's so important and it's a unique chance. And if we do well, I think we can shape this Europe for the best of all of us. Thank you. That's it.
Very concise. Thanks. Vice President Schweitzer.
Thank you, Sophia. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me into this conference this morning. I think that the most important issue is to try to communicate this conference better and to promote the conference and to ask citizens to participate. This is something which we would like to achieve. You know that the sixth pillar of this commission is new push for European democracy. And this was envisaged before this pandemic, as I said, in July 2019. So nobody could have known that this pandemic will happen. But at that time, we also thought about online platform, because you know that second pillar of our commission after EU Green Deal is Digital Europe. So now this digital platform is more important than ever, but not only platform, but the whole conference is more important than ever. And I think that citizens would like to be part of creating a new European democracy. As I said at the beginning, democracy is not static. We have to, it should be evolved all the time. And this is the place where we can do it together. Yes, Carolina said that this exercise is very complex. It is complex, depends on all of us. And it can be a success if all of us take part of a responsibility and ownership. And this is my message to you, to citizens, to those to participants whom I see that there are a lot today, to spread the news that the conference is on 9th of May. It will be officially launched, but it's still on since 19th of April, and looking forward to different events on local, national, regional, national, and in the end on European level. So, but whatever you organize, your citizens should be branded as the conference on the future of Europe, which means it should have a logo of conference. To have this logo, you have to subscribe and to this charter with the rules of procedure and with terms and conditions. It's not Facebook, but it's much more important and much more serious than Facebook, if I may say so. So be part of Europe's future, and especially young people, because this is the future we are now determining for them. So we don't want to determine the future on ourselves. This is the reason why 1/3 of young people should be everywhere in citizens panels and in different events, because Next Generation EU, as you know, big resilience and recovery plan is starting now. So everything is what we are doing now. We are preparing Europe for next generation. And this is the reason why we want to include them. So we don't want to work for them, but with them.
Right.
This is my final message. Thank you for invitation and all the best.
Thank you very much, Vice President. Dania, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. What are your final words?
Well, I would say this is an opportunity. It's not a given that this conference will be a success, but if we don't try, then we ensure from the outset that it won't be. And I'm still very much hopeful that something very meaningful can come from this conference, but it's up to all of us to make that happen. We need to ensure that everyone in Europe hears about this conference, and then that as many of us as possible engage in the discussions, come forward with their proposals, and at least I myself, and I know my political group will do everything to make sure that the voices in the conference from citizens, also from all the politicians that will be there, that they are heard, and that we follow up with a meaningful reform of the union, because it's so clear. We have it seen time and again over the last 10 years with these crises that the union is not quite there yet where it should be. This is our chance to change that and make the union fit for the future. So I can only invite everyone to try and make that happen. Thanks.
Thanks, Saya. Thanks a lot. Ilke, you have the last word.
I think I share the final remarks by everyone. The conference, as I have already said, in the end is what we make out of it. And I think think tanks and research institutions should also do their best to feed into the conference in their research areas. This is a good opportunity. I also very much agree. And I think we should try to make the best out of it. Thank you very much, Sophia, for the invitation. This was great. This was a great panel to be a part of. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all of you. So we are curious to look at Sunday, to the kickoff event and to the hybrid in hybrid formation in Strasbourg, and what the next meetings of the executive board will bring, and of course the whole next year of conference. We at CEPS will continue to shadow and research the conference. So watch our website. And I would like to thank all you speakers a lot for being here and taking time to discuss it with us, and also many thanks to the audience.